Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the METUS Tech Show. On today's episode, we will be talking about refrigerant sensors and their locations. But first, the METUS Minute. M-Series units operating at ambient temperatures below 64 degrees may not function as installed in full load environments. A true low ambient system generally modulates certain system components in order to maintain a specific liquid line temperature or pressure. However, this could damage the compressor when operating at such low temperatures. M-Series units do not maintain specific liquid line pressures as other low ambients will. Logic built into the M-Series adjusts the condenser fan speed based on compressor frequency. This function allows the M-Series to better protect and extend the compressor lifespan in these conditions. M-Series units are still capable of cooling down to 14 degrees, but with a D-rated capacity. In residential installations, this works as designed in order to save energy. However, when indoor load is at its maximum, for example in a server room, the M-Series most likely will be unable to maintain cooling capacity requirements. For this reason, it is strongly recommended to install P-Series units for such low ambient cooling loads when cooling requirements are critical. The P-Series is intended to handle such harsh environments and perform as designed for these proper or computer room applications. M-Series applications should be restricted to comfort cooling only. Equipment or process cooling applications are not recommended for low ambient temperature conditions. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the show.
The METUS Tech Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
I like how you guys bounce back and forth between heat pump talk and food talk.
The METUS Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
So we have a very special guest on our podcast today because Felix has been working here longer than I have. And because he's out in no man's land of Houston, we haven't been able to get him on the podcast. So it's really exciting to have him on for the first time. Felix, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you ended up at METUS?
Hello, guys. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Felix Solorzano. I'm the technical instructor at the Houston Training Center for Mitsubishi. I've been in the industry for 20 years, electrical engineer by trade. Also had studies in climatization and HVAC. I started as a service guy, and then I moved up in my career until I become director of engineering for chain of hotels in South Florida. 3 years, these guys found me, and I'm finally following my passion, which is teaching.
Yeah.
And that's what I do now, full time.
Awesome.
Trainer. Thank you.
So did you see the job come up on MyLink Drive, or how did you find out about METUS as an opportunity?
Actually, I found it on LinkedIn. I always trying to explore options in Houston.
Yeah.
I applied, and these guys liked me. And
That's
how I
awesome.
got
Yeah, believe it or not, I was there when you was in Boston when you were interviewed.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Did you have to
That is
do
correct.
a little presentation for
Yes,
Steve?
yes, I did a 15 minutes presentation as part of my...
Something crazy on electrical, like he normally does.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing to do is just go over our head
Correct.
with the electrical. And we're like, sounds good.
Yeah, exactly, right? Easy to debate.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're so nervous that first time, and you're standing there, and we don't have the skills yet.
Man.
You know how you have the knowledge, right? We all have the knowledge base, but sometimes it's the skills of teaching that we lack. And it's the first thing they brought up is like, yeah, sounds good, except you have the presence, but we got to hone in the facilitation skills, and that's what you learn. It's
So-
like, wow, there's so much more to this.
Yes.
Oh no! So I remember when Felix did his presentation, and at the very end, we had the questions that we asked the instructor questions, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, mine was way different. You know what they were asking me? They were asking me first time, what LED position should this be in cooling? Like, you think I'm going to know that when I first?
That's a struggle. So we got Felix on the podcast, and we also have Scott. Scott's a regular, but Scott, why don't you actually do the same thing? Tell us how you ended up at Mitsubishi.
So in my trade, which I've been in the mechanical trade roughly, 17 years now. A bulk of it was in the test and balancing industry with a company called Moline Corporation out of Milford, Ohio. And I was a green guy. I remember when I first started, I didn't know what a belt and pulley was. I'm just going to be real blunt and sweet on that. Worked my way up through the company. From there, I became just a lead technician and then a trainer. and that's when I developed a passion for training.
Yeah.
That's where our instructor who's retired now, Roland Wagner, out of Orlando.
Ronald Wagner.
Right. I got to say it. AKA, for those, I call him Roro. So, Roro. I was his boss at that particular company.
Yeah.
Right. And so then he left to actually become an instructor here at Mitsubishi. About 5 years go by, I get a call. And Roland and I, we always stay connected.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I worked at on the control side of things, working at Johnson Controls and Siemens, getting a controls background.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. And so then about 5-6 years go by, Roland calls me and says, Scott, there's a position in Atlanta I want you to take. And to be blunt, I said, no, not happening. Right. And you got to know, right? My background at that point in this industry has been airflow and controls.
Right.
Right. Nothing on a compressor, refrigeration, none of that. And then my thought process is, well, I'm going to have to teach contractors this. And for how my mind works is anyone can talk or read a PowerPoint, right? We all know this, but I want to understand it, then deliver the information. Yeah. So that way, when I deliver it, to make our audience understand. And so rolling, then I told him no. A year goes by, the position opens up again. And then he pretty much got like, you have to take this. Like you were my trainer, and I have never had someone like you as a trainer. Then he popped the light bulb in my head. He goes, Scott, I cannot teach you to be an instructor, but what I can teach you is the refrigeration cycle. And if you haven't had Roland teach you the refrigerant cycle, it's mind blown. Yeah. The way he describes it, like the light bulb, which just went off. And so, I've been here for 3 years and ever since. And all because of Roro. No, honestly.
You also got to present in front of Steve and Paul.
Oh, no. Steve, Paul, Brent, Juan. Oh, yeah. And all these guys were peppering questions at the very end. And then, so I had to do a refrigeration cycle. Yeah. And then in my presentation. Sure. But it was like the basic of the basic of the refrigeration cycle. Now it's funny. Now I'm in charge of refrigeration. Right. Working with you, obviously. That's one of my strong suits, which is kind of funny. Was my weakness. Now it's one of my strong suits.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks for doing that. We did the behind the mic with myself and Steve and Paul. And I think as we get the rest of our technical instructors on, it's just good to do a little background because, a lot of people, when they listen, they are curious where we came from. So just, we've all walked the walk too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Despite how much we don't sound like it.
Right. Hey, but we all lived in the van, or me, I lived in airports, around cars, around the country and stuff like that. So I get it. Yeah.
So you'll get a kick out of this. We went to that restaurant last night. Was it Twin Cities?
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Twin Cities.
Yeah. And it was this pizza place. And it didn't click for me until we were almost leaving the restaurant that it's called Twin Cities because they do New York style pizza and they do Chicago style pizza. I'm like,
halfway
two
through.
cities.
Halfway through.
Yeah. So I didn't get it. But one of the cool things was the bathrooms. I don't know if you guys had to use the restroom there, but it's a subway car.
Yeah,
like a literal subway car that you kind of walk in the doors of the subway and it's that's what the actual restrooms are.
And they actually the sounds like you're in a subway.
Yeah. It has like some in the speakers it plays like a train car noise and the announcer coming over and next stop is
wow.
What did you think of the pizza?
I didn't have the pizza.
You always get wings.
I had wings again. Second night in a row.
Yeah, and you always get them naked. Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got the Gotham. What was it called?
Gotham Gangster.
Yeah, this guy right here. Yeah, Gotham Gangster, which is a white sauce, chicken, onions.
You had a little barbecue sauce on there?
Yeah, barbecue sauce. That's what it was. Yeah.
It looked
not
good.
bad. It was good.
I made my own. Just put the goat cheese, ham. I know it's a sin, but I put pineapple in it.
There's nothing wrong putting pineapple on a pizza.
Felix,
some people hate it. Some
Paul
people
is
love
not
it.
on the podcast. We can talk about pineapple.
You'll get a lot of people. I guarantee we'll get some feedback on this podcast.
Correct.
But fruit does not belong on pizza.
Don't do that. But I love it.
It's one or the other. So you either love it or you hate it. I am a lover.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, we were discussing last night, pineapple with bacon. It's just something with that because of the salt and more bacon with the sweetness.
Correct.
Yeah, ham is salty too, but the bacon I think just kind of elevates the level of salt.
Correct.
But, yeah. So welcome to the METUS Tech Show. Today we're going to talk about those refrigerant sensors. So in the very beginning of the year when we made our transition over to A2L, we did a couple episodes called the A2L Kickoffs. So if you haven't listened to those, feel free to go back and listen. But the cool thing about those podcasts was we talked, everything that we knew at the time. And one of the things that we didn't 100% know was the actual part numbers for reordering of those refrigerant sensors. Yep. So when we initially talked about it, we were actually talking about the actual PC board part numbers.
Correct.
But now we have them, in our ordering system. So we actually have the updated part numbers. And so because all of us here have had the chance to work on the equipment a little bit, we thought it might be helpful to not only talk about those part numbers for reordering, but also where they're located, right? Because they're not all going to be, as easy as a wall mount to pull out. So I thought we could get into all of the main M-Series indoor units and kind of the steps it would take to get access to that sensor, and then what part number we're going to replace them with. Yep. So let's start with the one-way cassettes. So the MLZ. And to be perfectly honest, me and Scott just did this about an hour ago, so we could verify this information. So Scott, what did we have to do to get to that refrigerant sensor?
All right, so the first thing we have to do is we're going to have to the return grill gate. Make sure you release that.
Yep.
And then you're going to have to take out 6, 8 screws.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah,
between 6 and 10. I'd
6,
say.
8 screws, 10, whatever that number is. Then because what you need is you need to take that grill off.
Right.
And then you got to, but guys, don't forget to the hooks that are on just freestanding. So unhook it, then you can actually remove the grill. Once you remove the grill, then you're going to have to move the drain pan too. And the drain pan is very simple. It's 4 simple screws, 2 on each, 1 in each corner.
Yep.
Once you release that, it's going to be on the corner where your flare connections are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like kind of if you're looking up at the unit, right, and you took it off from where the airflow is coming from. If you look straight up at the unit, it's the bottom right corner.
Yep.
You'll see that sensor. And you will have to remove the PC board too. You'll at least have to slide it out because you got to get access to the connector, right? So because it's going to come with that harness with the new, potentially if you have to replace the whole thing.
Yep.
The connector is located on the PC. So you may have to pull out the PC board as well. But you don't have to actually remove that swing door, right? Leave it attached. There's no need to actually disconnect that. You're taking the whole panel off anyway. So you'll have to lower it just so you can get access to all the screws. But once all the screws are off, the whole thing is going to come off in a piece.
Yep.
Now I tried, 2 times, 3 times before we got all those screws out?
Yeah.
So like I say, I swear I've said it before on the podcast, but whenever you're doing a tear down on a unit where you're removing all of the panels, just keep taking off screws that you find until things start to loosen up.
Yep.
And then, it's what I did. And then it kind of, some of it was loose, but some of it was still a little bit tight. And Scott's on the ground. He looks up. He's like, oh, yeah, you got 2 more right there. And I mean, that's how it's going to happen in the field. I expect a contractor to pull up the service manual for the disassembly procedures? It's great that it's there. And maybe if you know ahead of time, you can look it up.
Look it up, yeah.
But when I'm on a service call, and I'm trying to take down a wall mount or a one-way cassette, I'm going to take down screws until things start to loosen up and figure out where I'm going.
Especially when the homeowner's staring at you when you do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. So I always say, put every screw that you take off of a unit into your pocket.
And count them. Count them, too.
Oh, see.
Practice.
That's a little too much there, Felix.
Here's what I did. And Felix is right. Here's what I did. I put them all in my pocket because at the end, when you put everything back together, inevitably, you will have a screw or 2 in your pocket. True. But the homeowner doesn't know that you forgot screws.
Yeah. And then another way to resemble where that refrigerant sensor is, it's going to be a brown 2-wire. And you can actually see that wire in the plastic sheathing.
Yeah.
That's an easy way to follow where that refrigerant sensor is.
Yeah, you kind of see it along the backside wall there. But yeah, so it's lower right corner. Once you remove the grill and the pan, you'll see it. There's one screw that holds the bracket in place. That's going to allow you to actually pull it out. And then if needed, the connector as well.
Yep.
And Felix, do you have the part number for the one-way cassette, MLZ?
Yes, I do. It's a T as in Thomas, 2, W, E as in Echo, A as in Alpha, 4334.
Awesome. So that's for your MLZ. And then obviously make sure that you take care in putting everything back together and all that good stuff. Test it before you leave. When would you have to ever change out an MLZ sensor?
When we have to change it out? Once we have a refrigerant leak, when it goes off by alarm.
Yeah. So realistically, on an MLZ, the only time that's going to happen is when it's part of a smart multi-system.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for actually covering that. Remember, on the for those that are listening, that on an one-way cassette, the sensor itself comes installed with the unit, but it's only active when it's attached to a smart multi branch box system.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually made it make sense to back up a little bit and just talk that in general.
Agreed.
So, the only time that you'll ever have to install a sensor is when you have a wall mount unit on a smart multi-system.
Yep, an FX and a GX.
You got it.
Yep.
So that is the only time you have to field install a sensor. The rest are already in the equipment. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it is always active. It just means that it's pre-installed.
Yep.
The only ones that it's actually active on are your ducted units and your floor mount.
Easiest way to explain it.
Correct.
Exactly right.
So those are always active, whether it's one-to-one ported or a smart multi. With the rest of our ductless units, it's only active when part of a smart multi. So most of the time when you're replacing these, especially like an MLZ, it's only going to be on a smart multi, right? The only time you're going to ever going to have to replace these. So just something to be aware of. Scott, I think, is there another part number? I thought there was for different sizes. There might be a different one.
So what Felix read you was the 6000 BTU MLZ.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So for the 9 through the 18,000 MLZ one-way cassette, that service part number is U01A03084. Again, you can find this on Mitsubishi Pro. Mm-hmm. So one thing about Mitsubishi Pro, I will say, our search function's gotten a lot easier.
Way better.
So hit the top right-hand corner, search. All you have to do, for me, this is how I search. If I want an MLZ R54B, I literally type in MLZ R454B, and then all the models R54B show up.
Sure.
And then just find what BTU you're on, and then that's where you're going to find. Scroll to the very bottom, that's where you're going to find your parts manual.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I did notice as we continue to update that website, they did add the image icons. I know a lot of people were a little bummed out to see those go, but they are on Mitsubishi Pro now. So you can actually just scroll down when you get to the website and it has a list of your indoor. I think they call them popular units.
Popular.
But it's, just the main, indoor units, and it's got the icon picture just like we see on MyLink Drive. So that's awesome too.
Question, Scott. All these processes can be found on the service or installation manual?
As far as for finding
sensors.
For the sensors, install manual.
Thank you.
Well, it depends. So on the SVZ, on the air handler, it's in the install manual.
Correct.
So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
So there is going to be some models are going to be in the install, but truth be told, a lot of it is going to be in the service manual.
Yeah. So specifically when it comes to removing the sensor, because it is considered a disassembly procedure, you'll find them in the service manual. That disassembly procedure tells you how to remove the grill, how to remove the drain pan, how to remove the drain pump, right? It has every step for disassembling that equipment. And one of those procedures is for removing the refrigerant sensor. Yeah. We'll get into it when we talk about the SVZ, but one thing that is in the SVZ or multi-position air handler manuals on the install side is when we may have to relocate that sensor. So
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to the air handlers. But let's move on to wall mount, because that, again, is going to be the only one that's field installed. Let's cover that one. Yep. On a wall mount, essentially, the way I would describe it is if you've ever done a full teardown on a wall mount where you take all the panels off and get to the point where you're pulling the blower, that's almost as much as you have to do to get to this. You want to take the front cover off, the right side cover off if needed. But basically, if you can expose that IC sensor, which is on the lower right-hand corner of the wall mount, directly to the left of it, you'll see a cavity. And that cavity is where you can plug in that sensor or access it.
Yeah, that's where the connector is.
Yep, and you'll see the connector floating in there.
Yeah, and again, where does that sensor for the wall mount, where does it come from?
Comes from your branch box.
Yeah, packaging,
right? Yeah, so when you order the branch box, the 3 ports in it come with 3 of those sensors, and then 5 ports in it come with 5 of those sensors. The reason why is because those wall mounts don't come with them pre-installed, and on a 1-to-1 or a ported, you don't need them. They're not going to monitor them. They're not active.
Nope.
So because they are only active when added to a smart multi and they're not pre-installed, they come with the branch box with as many ports as you purchase for the branch box.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, what's the part number for that one? You just talk. We'll just cut the breakout. What are you asking?
It's the MSZ FX and the MEZ GX, the MAC 100. Read that one.
Okay. So the part number for those will be MAC-100RS-E.
Awesome. So that one's the most common one. That's the one that comes with the branch box. That PC board does work for a couple different. So if you don't need the whole assembly, you might be able to just use that depending on the equipment. But it's the sensors technically for your FX and your GX.
Correct. Yep.
No.
Yep.
All right. What about our 4-way cassette? Let me get to our 4-way cassette.
Yeah, 4-way cassette. So that one again. Let's go back to from the beginning, right? Those sensors come installed, but if the PLA 4-way cassette is connected to a 1-to-1 or a ported, those sensors not active.
Not active.
Only on a branch box smart multi. So just to give you guys a heads up. And obviously, when we say 4-way cassette, we're talking about a PLA and SLZ.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to make sure. All right. So what's the process like that, Bryn?
So essentially, it's the exact same as your 1-way cassette. So you're going to have to remove that 4-way cover, which can be kind of a bear, but you want to take that 4-way cover off. Well, just because of the vane motor harnesses, you want to keep track of those. But that 4-way, that actual cover panel that holds the grill cover on, that whole thing comes down. And then once you have it exposed, you're going to pull the drain pan, same way as you would with the MLZ,
Yep.
and then you'll locate that 454B sensor.
Which, again, it's going to be right by your flare connections.
Yep.
Guys, that's anyone on the call. Majority of our sensors are located at flare connections.
Yeah.
So just the easiest way to remember.
Yep. And so it's one screw, again, holding in that sensor. So you'll just unscrew, pull it out, remove the connector if you need to, replace, and then slide back in once it's replaced. But what's the part number for that one, Felix?
Yes.
Start with the PLA.
So for the PLA, the part number will be E271, C as in Charlie, 43191.
Okay.
For the SLZ, it will be E271, D1391.
So the difference between those two is just the letter C for the PLA and the letter D for the SLZ.
And also the number right next to those letters is different.
Okay, so they're completely different part numbers. You have them now.
You got a C4 and a D1.
Oh, I can't read, guys, so I apologize. So we'll scratch that. I forgot the one. We'll scratch this thing. Thank you, Felix, for calling my blank out. I was reading the wrong one.
Yeah. All right, so those are probably the most difficult, in my opinion anyway. The MLZ, because you're taking off, you're doing essentially a full teardown on that equipment. You're just shy of pulling the blower wheel. The wall mount, same thing. You're just shy of getting to the point where you're pulling the blower wheel. The PLA, same thing. You're exposing just about everything. So those are the more difficult ones to get to. There are ductless. Ducted, honestly, is a little bit easier. So
it is much easier.
Yeah, let's talk about the SVZ or PVAs or MVAs. And the process for taking those off.
Well, for those, first thing, you just take out the blower compartment panel. Mm-hmm. Once you're off that, you'll see the sensor right there on the left side.
Yep,
you can't miss it. So that's how that is. But if we're doing that's for vertical installs. Yep. If we're doing a horizontal install, then we're going to have to relocate that sensor.
Yeah.
So again, and this particular, as Bryn stated, a lot of our sensing location for replacing is in the service manual, but for the air handlers for relocating in the sensor for a horizontal, that's going to be in our install manual.
Right. Which makes sense. I mean,
it really, does. When you said that, I'm like,
during installation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so typically you take the covers off. It's on the left-hand side. There's a screw that holds it into the cabinet. And then to relocate that, provided with the SVZ is an additional bracket, and that is for horizontal.
And you're almost putting it right on the takeoff, right?
That plenum, where your supply plenum would be.
Yep, exactly.
So if you were to actually, before you even put any ductwork on it, if you look down where your takeoff would be or your plenum is, there's an inner lip. And that's actually where that's
where you're going to clip it right on it. Yep, exactly. Yep. The only thing is, it does states this in the manual for a caution is making sure that you put a zip tie around your sensor wiring because they were going near the drain pan.
Yep.
Right. Just like if you guys are all familiar going horizontal left position in our air handlers, right? What gets snipped a lot?
Those thermistors.
Those thermistor wires.
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to that.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's best practice, but it's good that they put it in the manual too, is, be aware of where your wires are going to be laying, and
there
make
is
sure they're not going to be.
There is a video on Tech Tips about how to properly disassemble that.
Yeah. So if you're trying to reorient,
Correct.
they have those videos. This would be just an additional step,
Mileage
which would
drive.
be, relocating the refrigerant sensor. So what are the part numbers or part number for the SVZ or PVAs?
Sure. For SVC, PVAs, and PVFY, they share the same part, which is U61001084.
Nice.
Awesome. So PVFY for our MNP listeners, that's our commercial multi-position air handler. But PVA, SVZ, those are our residential, and they all share the same part number.
And some of the, depending on what unit you're on, right, you may just get the sensor, right? Some models you may get the sensor and a cover, right? And then some models you will get the sensor assembly. You'll get the sensor, the cover, and the actual wiring harness.
Yeah. So what I noticed when I went through the parts manual for the SVZ was there was only two part numbers. One was for the sensor assembly, which is your actual sensor and the cover. And then there was a separate number for the harness itself.
The harness itself.
Yeah. Okay. So just be aware of that too. If you just have a sensor that tripped, you may not need the entire assembly.
No, we just need this. Yeah.
So just be aware of that. Use the parts manuals, right? That's where we pulled this information from. So take advantage of that. I've always been a huge proponent of that in general, which is when I was in a van, right? You go to a service call, you diagnose, okay, this thermistor is bad, right? Let's say it's TH5 on a city multi-unit. Yeah. It's EP 120, whatever. So you go to your supply house and you tell them, I need a TH5 thermistor for an EP 120 unit. And they go, yep, no problem, we got you. Then what comes in is something completely different. Why? Because things get lost in translation, right? What I would do is actually pull up the parts manual and I'd say, I need an R00 whatever for that part number and give them the exact part number. Because typically when you do that, they'll look it up and they'll say, a TH5, is that a TH5 for a PURY EP120? Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
Perfect, right? So there's that confirmation there. And I just prefer to do that legwork first because less parts come back.
You just eliminate a lot of issues down the road at the end of the day. So I agree.
Just your due diligence. So take advantage of those parts manuals. That's where we get all this stuff from.
Just always keep in mind that those part manuals usually are good for different models.
Correct.
So you have to be working on the specific column.
So
Yep, that's true. Yeah, you'll see like a 1 in the chart, and that 1, you got to scroll to the top and see which unit that 1 is on, because that actually says this is the part for that particular equipment. That's a good point, Felix.
I would have to make one note, guys. Just like everyone else in this world, we all make mistakes, right? Sometimes part manuals get uploaded to different areas in Mitsubishi Pro or My Lake Drive. I'm not saying what is what, but just be aware. Always double check when you open up a parts manual that you're on the model that you're looking on. Sometimes they upload the wrong document, you order a part number, and you get the wrong part.
Yep.
I've had that happen to me personally, so I got with whoever.
No, I've never ordered the wrong part, ever.
Yeah, so I got with our team. They actually uploaded the right document because they just put it at the wrong spot. So it does. Everyone makes mistakes. Yeah. So we just wanted to clarify that. Always double check the manual, whatever manual on. Make sure you're on the right model.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. While we're on the topic of ducted units, and this one's pretty straightforward, let's do the PEAD and SEZ. So those are I call them pancake units, sealing concealed ducted units.
What do you call them?
I call them, I introduce them as a sealing concealed ducted unit, and then I notify my students. For the remainder of the class, I will probably call this a pancake unit.
I do the same thing. So funny. I do the same thing. Yeah. Or I'll even, hey, what do you guys call these in the field? And pretty much say, those are pancake units. Okay, that's what I call them.
I had actually a class a couple weeks ago, and the guy said, no matter what it is, they call them fan coil units. And I'm like, we're not doing that.
No.
Because that is going to be way too confusing. But yeah, so with the PEADs or SEZs, you really just have to remove that electrical cover.
This is so easy.
Yeah. So where your electrical goes in, you remove that cover, you kind of look behind and to the left, and you'll see that.
And right
harness.
there, they're going to be in a little assembly cover. Yep. One screw takes off, and then once you get that, it just opens up, and there's a board for the replacement.
Yep.
Real straightforward.
So that one's pretty straightforward. Felix, do you have the part number for the PEAD and SEZs?
Yes, sir. So for the SEZ, I have Echo E277C as in Charlie 5391. And for the PEAD, pancake, I have a U41001084.
Nice. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, those are, I mean, I wish they were all that easy. But, ductless units, we keep things kind of small profile.
I know. I think we're
tight
going. I think we're going to touch base on this next one, but the floor mount's not bad.
No, I didn't have a hard time getting to that one.
It's real easy to actually get to on the floor mount.
Yeah. When I did some experimenting with
we
pump down.
have experimented, out of a floor mount.
Yeah.
Why? Because it was the easiest sensor to get to.
It was easy to get to, and it was a true M series. So we
because we
verify
had
some things.
why? Because we had extra sensors from our branch box.
Yep.
That's the only reason.
Just
why.
in case one happened to be compromised in the course of our testing.
Right? I know. Well, what's
all right? So how do we get to a floor mount refrigerant sensor? Just remove the front cover. Right?
Yeah,
It's kind of one big piece.
Yeah. Take the return grill down.
Yep.
And then I think it's like 2 or 3 screws.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then you put your hands on the side to unclip, and it just comes off.
Yep.
And then where your board is, right? It's going to be tucked in the bottom right hand corner. And then it's kind of tucked in that back corner.
Yeah, it's almost like mounted on the back wall of the unit. So if you find your PC board and you look below it, it's kind of tucked, and you'll see there's a backwards facing screw. So the screw is facing towards your wall if it was mounted, right?
Yeah.
It's facing towards your wall, and the sensor itself is almost on the back wall.
Any drill can get back. I got back there with the drill.
Yeah, I think I used a long, skinny screwdriver. It was fine. It wasn't super tight.
No.
It can be a little bit finicky
awkward.
pulling the sensor out because it doesn't just pull straight out. You'll have to kind of do a little twist on it to get it out, but it was super easy to get to.
Yeah,
and,
100%. But
after the extensive testing, I'm a pro.
I think we both are on that.
So what's the floor mount part number?
For the MFZ, it's going to be T. Actually, the very first part number for the MLZ 6000.
Yep.
So, which I'm going to repeat it.
It's
the same one.
Okay.
T2WEA4334. Again, all these part numbers are going to be on Mitsubishi Pro, because that's where all of our R54B product is located.
Yep.
In the parts manual for all these different models. So
cool. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, part of this was for my own education. I've gotten to get access to most of these sensors. The 4-way cassette was the first time I did that, and the 1-way cassette was the first time I did that, looking into the manuals and actually verifying. Because we did notice, like in the 1-way cassette manual, it doesn't mention the drain pan being in the way.
I knew the 1-way cassette. The one with the PLA is the one I really haven't messed with personally.
Yep.
I've been messing with the 1-way cassette because it's always fun to get to that blower wheel. So that's a different discussion you and I will have. But
So it's useful for guys in the field. The perfect world, and my hope is that we never have to replace any of these sensors because we don't ever have leaks. But the reality is things can just age if it's certain conditions can foul these sensors. It's good to know where they are.
Yeah, and you nailed it on the head. Different conditions, right? It's not just refrigerant that can trigger these. So you have to be very aware.
Correct.
We have one more sensor to discuss that this product has not been released yet.
Yeah.
Is the PAA.
Yeah.
Right. It is going to be released here in a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact date or anything like that, but the good thing about that one, that's obviously its own. It'll have its own, like each of these models, they have its own dedicated sensor. This one's the same one. Yeah. Right. Because if you guys remember from our first podcast, right, we have dedicated sensors just for the ducted, dedicated sensors for our ductless. Mm-hmm. And then the PAA pretty much has its own sensor.
Its own standalone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the part number for the PAA, you got that, Felix?
Yes,
for
I
the
do.
PAA?
Sure. The part number for the PAA, that's the IntelliHeat.
Yes.
That will be U41003084.
Nice. And we'll have a separate podcast on once that get released.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of fun things changing on that for the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would imagine, just, given that it's sitting on top of a furnace, right? And we've got this A2L refrigerant, there's probably some more consideration. So it'll be really cool to see what our design team came up with for all that stuff.
Fun fact, or let me see if you guys know this. What 2 units does not require a refrigerant sensor, and why?
It is the PKA and the PCA
And why?
because they don't go on a smart multi.
Yep. Bingo.
Yeah, so
Look at
that's
it,
actually
look
I guess
another
I
one.
didn't pass the test. I hope you
another
guys
good
keep
one,
inviting me.
Yeah, a good review, which is PKA, PCA. They're not compliant with a smart multi, so they're not going to come with a sensor. I mean, it might be worth mentioning too, like our EF, which I'm assuming is the EX models. Those are our designer model wall mounts. Those aren't compatible either.
Nope.
So no concerns with sensors there either.
No. No.
So where are we going to dinner tonight?
All right, where you guys staying at the hotel? I mean,
We're going down to the airport tonight.
Yeah.
I always like to go to that.
Where
is
do
it?
you guys go?
Red Ginger? Is that the Chinese place that's like really close by?
Oh, here, do you guys eat here and then go to the? Oh, you do.
Try to avoid the evening traffic.
Man, I got to give you the name of the restaurant. It is by the airport.
Okay.
But they're famous for their bone-in pork chops.
Oh,
They're delicious. Don't give me
like
that
pork
look.
chops. I don't
I am sorry that they don't serve chicken wings.
You said bone in, I got excited.
Can I put pineapple in that?
Actually, isn't that some? Well, that's kind of a thing, right? Like pork in general and adding
Ginger.
apples.
What's
or
red
pineapple.
ginger though?
I think it's in the Kroger lot or something. It's very
Oh,
close
yeah,
by.
yeah, yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
Chinese
right up the road.
spot. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
gas station right next
I've
to it.
never been there.
They have bento boxes for $13 there.
That's not bad.
You get like you can get Mongolian beef with rice, or I get general chicken with rice, but it also has California roll.
It has a little sushi,
gyoza,
right? Yeah.
and it has an egg roll.
Yes.
Nice.
$13.
Yeah, in this day and
Wild.
age, that's not bad.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I like to go, but we'll see. We'll see what the team decides.
Nice.
Yeah, but any final words, Felix? Thank you very much for joining
man.
us.
No, guys, thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate it.
Lots of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we
Felix
need to get
is,
you on. We can get him on and talk about inverters.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm
Felix
sure
is
we-
a soft-spoken person, but there's a lot of information in there that we gotta pry out.
Anything
at some
like
point.
electrical out of him. Well, it's funny. The first time I sat in his class, it was qualifying for a city multi for him, and he was going to inverter circuit. I'm supposed to qualify in this guy, right? And I'm sitting there and just in awe of just like, oh, that's what really happens.
Yeah. There are some things that he'll say in passing that I like grab onto, and I'm like, I'm going to use that in class every
here.
time.
Same here. Yeah.
So-
Well, each of us, right?
Yeah, we all do it.
No,
Yeah, we all do.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I learned a lot from you guys also.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.